Imagine waking up in a world where soap does not exist, where the water you drink might kill you before noon, where your own bed is shared with insects, rodents, and a smell so permanent it becomes part of your identity. Now stop imagining, because tonight, you are not watching a history lesson. You are stepping into a single day in the year 1325. And here is the question you need to ask yourself before we begin. Would you survive until sunset? Not for a week. Not for a month. Just one day. No modern medicine. No police. No refrigerator. No bathroom. No escape. Just mud, wool, hunger, and a church bell that never lets you forget how fragile you really are. Most people romanticize the Middle Ages. Castles, knights, feasts, romance. But the truth is much darker and much more interesting, because the real story is not about kings. It is about you. What your body would feel, what your nose would smell, what your mind would do when there is no light at night and no hope of rescue. So before we go any further, here is what I need from you. If you genuinely enjoy history that does not look away from the truth, press like right now. And subscribe to Little Historical, not because a voice told you to, but because you want to stay for the next journey. Because this channel does not sell you fairy tales. We walk into the mud together. Now take a breath. Turn down the lights. Maybe leave a fan on for that soft background hum. And let me ask you one more time before we begin. You are lying on straw. It is freezing. And somewhere outside, a bell is ringing. Do you open your eyes? You open your eyes, and that is your first mistake. Because the moment you wake up, the moment you inhale that first breath of medieval morning air, your body begins screaming warnings your mind cannot yet understand. The bed beneath you is not a bed. It is a sack of straw that has been slept on by generations of strangers, soaked through with sweat, rainwater, and things you do not want to name. Somewhere in the darkness beside you, your father is snoring. Your mother is whispering a prayer. A goat is chewing something in the corner. And you are all sharing the same room, the same air, the same filth. You try to sit up, but your joints refuse. You are 22 years old, but your spine crackles like dry twigs. Your knees pop. Your neck is stiff from sleeping on nothing but compressed hay and disappointment. This is what it feels like to be middle-aged in the 14th century. And the day has not even started. The smell hits you next. Not gradually. Not politely. It hits you like a wall of wet wool and old sweat and something sour from the bucket in the corner that someone forgot to empty. There is no deodorant. There is no perfume. There is no open window because there are no windows, just a hole in the wall covered with a greased cloth. You breathe through your mouth, but that is worse, because now you can taste it. Your wool blanket weighs as much as a small person. It has not been washed since last autumn, and it carries the accumulated memory of every nightmare, every fever, every cold night you have spent clutching it for warmth. Beneath the blanket, your body itches. Not a mild itch. A deep, crawling, desperate itch that tells you without words that you are not alone in this bed. Fleas, lice, bed bugs. They live rent-free on every surface of your skin. You scratch your arm and feel raised bumps. You scratch your scalp and feel something move. No one will help you because everyone else has the same problem. The Lord has the same problem. The priest has the same problem. Even the lady in the manor house, with her fur-lined cloak and her private chapel, scratches when she thinks no one is watching. You swing your legs over the edge of the straw mattress. Your bare feet touch the floor. It is wet. It is cold. It is either last night's rain leaking through the thatch roof or something your neighbor's chicken left behind. Either way, your feet are now part of the ecosystem. And somewhere outside, the church bell begins to ring. That is your alarm clock. That is your signal that the day of labor, hunger, and humiliation has officially begun. But before you can stand up, before you can dress, before you can even think about breakfast, there is something else you need to do. Something private. Something that in your own time you would never discuss in polite company. But in the Middle Ages, there is no polite company. There is only survival. And nature is calling. It is not calling politely. It is screaming. You have answered the call of nature in the most humiliating way possible, and now you are standing in the freezing dawn with an empty bucket and a fresh layer of shame. But there is no time to dwell on it. Your stomach is growling. Your head is pounding. And somewhere behind you, Your mother is already stirring the pot that has been hanging over the fire since before you were born. You turn back toward the hut, and that is when you smell it. Not the bucket this time. Food. Or what passes for food in the year 1325. You duck under the low doorway and shuffle toward the hearth, your bare feet leaving prints in the dirt floor. The fire is small, smoky, and angry. Above it hangs a blackened cauldron filled with something that looks like mud and smells like regret. That is pottage. It is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is a thick, grey-brown sludge made from whatever the family could find. Oats if you are lucky. Barley if you are not. A few shriveled turnips. Maybe a handful of beans that have been sitting in a sack since Michaelmas. And water. Always water. The same water that probably gave you the runs yesterday and will probably give them to you again tomorrow. You dip a wooden bowl into the pottage and lift it to your lips. It is warm. That is the only good thing you can say about it. It has no salt because salt is locked in the Lord's storehouse and costs more than you earn in a month. It has no pepper because pepper is worth its weight in silver. It tastes like boiled grass and sadness, but you eat it anyway because the alternative is chewing on bark or watching your neighbor's children cry themselves to sleep. On the side, your father hands you a hunk of bread. You cannot call it bread. Not really. It is black. It is dense. It is made from rye flour mixed with ground acorns, dried peas, and sometimes a little sawdust when the harvest was bad. You do not slice this bread. You attack it with your teeth. And your teeth are not ready for this fight. You feel something shift. Something crack. Not the bread. Your molar. A sharp pain shoots through your jaw, and for a moment you cannot see straight. You touch your tongue to the tooth and taste iron. It is loose. It is rotting from the inside because you have never owned a toothbrush, never rinsed with anything stronger than ditch water, and never met anyone whose smile did not look like a cemetery. You swallow the bread anyway. You swallow the pain. Because stopping to complain means eating less, and eating less means dying sooner. This is how hunger works in the Middle Ages. It does not ask for permission. It does not care about your comfort. It simply waits. And it is patient. You finish your pottage, wipe your mouth on your sleeve, and look toward the door. Outside, the fields are waiting. The Lord is waiting. And your back is about to learn the true meaning of the word work. You step outside, and the sun is already cruel. Not warm. Cruel. Because in the Middle Ages, the weather is not your ally. It is another enemy, another hand reaching out to push you closer to the grave. Your back aches from sleeping on straw. Your jaw throbs from the bread that nearly took your tooth. And now the field is waiting. 100 yards of heavy clay soil that has to be turned before noon, or the Lord's reeve will mark you down as lazy, and lazy people do not eat. You grip the wooden plow. There is no tractor. There is no horse unless you are wealthy, and you are not. There is just you, your brother, and an ox that hates you both. The wooden beam cuts into your shoulder. The rope burns your palms. You lean forward, and your spine screams. This is not exercise. This is not a workout you chose. This is your life, measured in blisters and backaches and the slow, grinding certainty that tomorrow will be exactly the same. By midday, your tunic is soaked through with sweat. The wool chafes your skin raw. You have not drunk anything since dawn because the water skin is empty and the stream is a 20-minute walk, and if you stop working, someone else will notice. Your mouth tastes like copper and old bread. Your head pounds from the heat. And then you feel it. A sharp, bright pain in your foot. You look down. A nail. A rusty, bent nail sticking up from a broken piece of wood someone left in the field. You pulled it out, but the damage is done. A small puncture. A bead of blood. It does not look like much. But in your world, that tiny wound is a door. And behind that door, infection is already knocking. There are no antibiotics. There is no cleaning alcohol. There is no doctor who understands germs because germ theory will not be invented for another 500 years. What you have is a village-wise woman who will pack the wound with moss and spiderwebs and tell you to pray. What you have is a barber who will offer to bleed you if the fever comes. What you have is the quiet knowledge that a man 3 villages overstepped on a nail last spring and was dead within the week. You wrap your foot in a strip of old linen and keep working. Because if you stop, you do not eat. If you do not eat, you weaken. If you weaken, the next infection, the next accident, the next wave of bad luck will finish what this nail started. The sun crawls across the sky. Your foot throbs in time with your heartbeat. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a question begins to form, one you are afraid to answer. Is that red streak climbing up your ankle? Or is it just a shadow? You keep walking. You keep working. Because in the Middle Ages, stopping is not an option. Stopping is just dying with extra steps. The sun finally disappears behind the trees, and the world turns from grey to black. There are no streetlights, no porch lamps, no glow from a phone screen or the soft hum of a refrigerator. There is only darkness. The kind of darkness that swallows your hand when you hold it in front of your face. The kind of darkness that turns every shadow into a stranger and every creak into a threat. You limp back to your hut, your foot still throbbing from a nail, the red streak now impossible to ignore. But you do not show it to anyone. Because showing it means admitting weakness, and weakness in a medieval village spreads faster than any fever. Your family is already inside, huddled around the dying fire. No one speaks. There is nothing left to say. The pottage pot is empty. The bread is gone. Tomorrow, you will wake up and do this all over again, assuming you wake up at all. You lower yourself onto the straw mattress, and your body begins its nightly inventory. Your shoulder where the plow bit into it. Your palms where the rope tore the skin. Your jaw where the tooth is looser now. Your foot where something dark is climbing toward your knee. You close your eyes, but sleep does not come easily. Because in the silence, the mind turns cruel. You think about the child you buried last winter. The one who coughed for 3 days and then stopped. You think about your mother, who died giving birth to a sibling you never met. You think about the priest's sermon last Sunday, the one about hell, about the river of fire, about the demons who wait for sinners. And you wonder, in the privacy of your own terrified heart, whether you have been good enough. The answer, you suspect, is no. Outside, a wolf howls. Or maybe it is just the wind. Or maybe it is your neighbor, the one whose wife left him, the one who drinks too much of the bad ale and talks to himself in the dark. You cannot tell the difference. That is the worst part of medieval night. Not the cold. Not the hunger. Not even the pain in your foot. It is the not knowing. Not knowing if that sound is an animal or a man. Not knowing if that red streak is infection or imagination. Not knowing if you will see the sunrise. The church bell rings again. Midnight. Or something like it. You pull the wool blanket over your head and pray. Not a careful prayer. Not a polite one. A desperate, childish whisper to a God you have never seen but cannot afford to doubt. Please. Just one more day. Just one more. And somewhere in the darkness, something scratches at the door.